class, Pure Science College, Mudhol online classes. In our previous class, we already had started the second unit, which is 2DL, and had seen Monaco Kingdom, in which there lived only 7,000 people, but had got a real kinglet, got a palace, ministers, bishops, generals, and also an army. And the kinglet of that Monaco kingdom laid taxes on tobacco, wine, spirits, and collected poll tax from 7,000 people who lived in his kingdom, and also had seen the kinglet had got special revenue or tax from gaming house. Most of the sovereigns of Germany had forbade this gaming house because the gaming house had done much harm. But to this kinglet, there was no one to be asked. So he remained with that gaming house business. Till then we had seen. Thereafter what happens? Let us see now. So now everyone who wants to gamble goes to Monaco. So now everyone who wants to gamble ಜೂಜಾಟ ಆಡುವುದು ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. So now everyone who wants to play the roulette, gambling is called as roulette game. So everyone who wanted to play roulette or gamble, they had to go to which kingdom? They had to go to Monaco because the German sovereigns had told or suggested their rulers to stop the gaming house because it had done much harm to their citizens. So the other kingdoms people, if they wanted to play the roulette or gamble, where they had to go? They had to go to Monaco. So everyone who wanted to gamble, they would come to Monaco kingdom. Whether they win or lose, the prince gains by it. Whether the people who play roulette or gambling, they win or lose, who gains by it? The Prince of Monaco gained by it. You can't earn stone palaces by honest labor, as the proverb says. And the kinglet of Monaco knows it is a dirty business, but what is he to do? Here it is given a proverb, which is, you can't earn stone palaces by honest labor. See how beautiful the proverb is. Proverb ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ? ಗಾದೆ ಮಾತು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ರಷ್ಯನ್ನರ ಗಾದೆ ಮಾತನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರೈಟರ್ ನಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಗಾದೆ ಮಾತು ಏನಿದೆಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, you can't earn stone palaces by honest labor. ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕರಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಕಲ್ಲಿನ ಅರಮನೆಯನ್ನ ಕಟ್ಟಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. Which means if we want to become rich, we have to be what? Dishonest. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಆದ್ರೂ ಅಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕತೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಈ ಪ್ರೊವರ್ಬ್ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ, ನಮಗ ಕಲ್ಲಿನ ಅರಮನೆಯನ್ನೇ ಕಟ್ಟಬಹುದು. ನಾವು ಒಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕರಾದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು, ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು? ಕಲ್ಲಿನ ಅರಮನೆಯನ್ನ ಸಿದ್ಧ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಕಲ್ಲಿನ ಅರಮನೆಯನ್ನ ಸಿದ್ಧ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕರಾಗಿರಬಾರ್ದು. Iದೇನು ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ? The proverb says this. So here it is given, you can't earn stone palaces by honest labor. The way how this proverb says, the kinglet of Monaco, he knew what? Gambling. Gambling is what? A dirty business. The kinglet of Monaco knew that gambling is which business? A dirty business. But he kept that business because he had nothing to be done to earn what? Money. To rule the inhabitants of his kingdom. So he kept it. He has to live, and to draw revenue from drink and from tobacco is also not a nice thing. The kinglet had to live, so he had kept the gambling game in his kingdom. He had to survive, so he kept that gaming house in his kingdom. And here it is given that even drawing or revenue tax, getting a tax even from drinks and tobacco is not a nice thing. In other kingdoms, they were getting tax on what and what? Wine and tobacco. It is also a nice thing. ಮದ್ಯಪಾನದ ಮೇಲೆ, ತಂಬಾಕಿನ ಮೇಲೆ ತೆರಿಗೆಯನ್ನು ವಸೂಲಿ ಮಾಡುವುದನ್ನು ಏನಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಲ್ಲ. Because wine kills, tobacco kills. Even then the other kingdoms were getting tax on tobacco and wine. So why shouldn't he get tax from gaming house? The thought came in the mind of kinglet. So he lives and reigns and rakes in the money and holds his court with all the ceremony of a real king. So with that thought, the kinglet, he lived in his kingdom. He reigned. The meaning of reign here is the meaning of R-E-I-G-N, not R-A-I-N. It is homophone. One rain is a rain in which the clouds bring the water drops on the ground. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಳೆ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನ. This rain is a rain which means rule. ಇದು homophone ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. Homophone means pronunciation will be same, but spelling will be different, meaning will be different. Such words are called as what? Homophones. So here, the kinglet knew that gaming house is a dirty game. Keeping a gaming house is a dirty thing. But he kept it because he knew that it is not possible to earn stone palaces by the honest labor. And he also thought that gaining or getting tax or revenue from tobacco and wine is also a nice thing, but the other people are collecting. Let me collect tax from gaming house. He thought and kept it. So he lived in that way. He ruled his kingdom in that way, and he reigned. Rake, the meaning of rake is earn. Meaning of rake is earn. He earned money in that way and holds his court with all the ceremony of a real king. And the kinglet of Monaco held his kingdom with all the ceremonies, just like the real kings. Now let us go to the next paragraph. He has his coronation. In the next paragraph, it is given that he has his coronation. Coronation, crowning ceremony. Crowning ceremony, Pattabhisheka. In his kingdom, he had what? The crowning ceremony. ಆ ರಾಜನಿಗೆ ಆ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು? ಪಟ್ಟಾಭಿಷೇಕನೂ ಕೂಡ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. He had his levees. The meaning of levees is an official reception for guests or visitors. ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಭೇಟಿಗಾರರು ರಾಜನ ಭೇಟಿಗೆ ಸಭಾಂಗಣಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಗೀತ ನೃತ್ಯದಿಂದ ಆ ವಿಸಿಟರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅತಿಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಮನರಂಜನೆ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಅತಿಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಮನರಂಜನೆ ಮಾಡುವ ಸಂಗೀತ ಮತ್ತು ನೃತ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ we call as what? Levees. An official reception for guests or visitors is called as levees. So he has his coronation, crowning ceremony, has his levees, and he rewards. In his small kingdom, he even rewards, honors. ಯಾರು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯವರು ಇರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅವರನ್ನ ಕರೆದು ಅವನು ಸನ್ಮಾನ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ. And sentences. He also had what? The sentences. ಯಾರು ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು? ವಾಕ್ಯಗಳನ್ನ ಘೋಷಿಸಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕೂಡ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು? ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ಸಣ್ಣ ಒಂದು ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. And pardons. And the kinglet also had pardons in his kingdom. Pardons, ಕ್ಷಮೆ. ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದವರು ಒಂದ್ಸಾರಿ ಕ್ಷಮೆಯಾಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯವರಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅವರನ್ನ ಕ್ಷಮಿಸ್ತಾನೂ ಇದ್ದ. So in his kingdom he also had the pardons. And he also has his reviews, councils, laws and courts of justice. Just like other kings, only all on a smaller scale. The kinglet also had what? The reviews. The meaning of reviews is inspections. ಏನಾದರೂ ತಪ್ಪು ನಡೆದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದ ಅವನು? ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ. ತನ್ನ ಸಬಾರ್ಡಿನೇಟರ್ಸ್ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಅವುಗಳನ್ನ ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ. He had the councils. The meaning of councils is inquiries. ಪರಿಶೀಲನೆಗಳು ಕೂಡ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದ್ದು ಆ ಸಣ್ಣದಾದ ಆಸ್ಥಾನದಲ್ಲಿನೇ. He had laws. Laws, ಕಾನೂನು. ಆ ಸಣ್ಣ ಆಸ್ಥಾನದ 7,000 peopleಗೆ the kinglet had what? The laws. And it also had got what? Court of what? Justice. That small kingdom also had got what? Court of justice. The meaning of court of justice in Kannada is Nyayalaya. See, in that small kingdom, the kinglet has his coronation, he had levees, he rewards, he sentences and pardons, and also he has his reviews, councils, laws, and also the court of justice he had got, but all he had got in a smaller scale because his kingdom was very small kingdom, which is Monaco. Next paragraph, let us see what it is given. Now it happened a few years ago that a murder was committed in this toy princess domains. But now it happened a few years ago that a murder was committed. Murder, ಕೊಲೆ. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವರ್ಷಗಳಾದ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಮೊನಾಕೋನಲ್ಲಿ what had happened? Murder was committed. Murder was committed by a man of Monaco kingdom. Princess domains means Rajana Samrajya. The meaning of domains is kingdom. Kingdom means ಆಸ್ಥಾನ ಅಥವಾ ಸಾಮ್ರಾಜ್ಯ. ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಏನಾಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತು ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣದಾದ ಆಸ್ಥಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕೊಲೆ ಆಯಿತು. Let us see what it is given. The people of that kingdom are peaceable, and such a thing had not happened before. The people of that kingdom were peaceable, and such a thing had never happened in the kingdom of Monaco. So the people of that kingdom were peaceable, and such a thing had never happened in the kingdom of Monaco. The judges assembled with much ceremony and tried the case in the most judicial manner. So already we have seen that the kingdom had got the court of justice. It had got court of justice. When it has got a court of justice, it has also got what? The judges. So now when there had happened what? The murder. All the judges, what they did? They assembled. Assembled means gathered. They assembled with much ceremony. Ceremony means joyfully. They all gathered joyfully and tried the case in the most judicial manner, and tried the case of murder. The most judicial. Judicial means, the meaning of judicial is lawful. In a lawful manner, all the judges, they assembled and tried the case to be solved. They were judges and prosecutor and jurymen and barristers. In the court of justice, there were judges, there were prosecutors. The meaning of prosecutor is lawyer and jurymen. It also had got what? The jurymen related to the court. It's called as jurymen. And it also had got what? The barristers. Even though it is a tiny kingdom, a small kingdom or a toy kingdom, in it has got the judges, prosecutors, jurymen and the barristers. Barristers are the lawyers, those who work in higher courts. So it has got everybody in it to be solved all types of cases. Now let us see what happens in next lines. They argued and judged, and at last they condemned the criminal to have his head cut off, as the law directs. So now the judges, prosecutors, barristers and the jurymen, they all argued and judged, and at last they condemned The meaning of condemning is sentencing. They sentenced the criminal who committed what? Murder. That his head has to be cut off. ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಗಳು, ಲಾಯರ್ಗಳು, ನ್ಯಾಯಾಧೀಶರು ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡಿ, ಆರ್ಗ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಆ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲ್ ಏನಂತ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆ ಕೊಟ್ರು ಅಂದ್ರ ಅವನ ಶಿರಚ್ಛೇದ ಆಗಬೇಕು. They sentenced the criminal to be cut off his head as the law of theirs directed. ಅವರ ಕಾನೂನು ಆ ರೀತಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಅದನ್ನೇ ಅವರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಶಿಕ್ಷೆಯನ್ನ ಅಪರಾಧಿಗೆ ವಿಧಿಸಿದ್ರು. Next, they submitted the sentence to the prince. Now, this judgment went to whom? Went to the Prince of Monaco. This judgment, the court of justice judgment, went to the Prince of Monaco. They submitted their sentence to the Prince of Monaco. Let us see what happens thereafter. The prince read the sentence and confirmed it. Now, the prince, he read the sentence and confirmed it. If the fellow must be executed, execute him. Then the king told the judges that if the fellow here refers to the murderer. Fellow here refers to whom? The murderer. The king said that if the fellow, the murderer, had to be executed, execute, the meaning of execute is kill. If the murderer had to be killed, he said to be killed. ಅವನಿಗೆ ಶಿರಚ್ಛೇದ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಸರಿ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ಅವನ ಶಿರಚ್ಛೇದವನ್ನು ನೀವು ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ he ordered. Now in next paragraph, let us see what it happens. There was only one hitch in the matter, but now there was only one hitch. The meaning of hitch is problem. But there was only one problem in the matter. What is that? Let us know through the next lines. And that was that they had neither a guillotine for cutting heads off nor an executioner. The kingdom neither had got what? The guillotine to cut the head of the criminals, nor an executioner. The meaning of executioner and guillotine are, guillotine means a machine which is used to cut the head of a person. Meaning of guillotine is a machine which is used to cut the head of a person, and the meaning of an executioner is an official whose job is to kill the criminals. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಗಲ್ಲಿಗೇರಿಸುವವ ಅಥವಾ ನೇಣು ಹಾಕುವವ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. There had arisen only one hitch in the matter. The hitch was the kingdom neither had got what? not a machine to cut off the criminal's head, and nor it had got what? An official person whose job is to kill the criminals. Let us see what happens thereafter. The ministers considered the matter and decided to address an inquiry to the French government asking whether the French could not lend them a machine and an expert to cut off the criminal's head, and if so, would the French kindly inform them what it would cost? Now, the ministers of Monaco Kingdom considered the matter. Consider here means thought. The meaning of consider according to this context is thought. The ministers, they thought about the matter and decided to send a note of inquiry to the French government. In our previous class, we already had seen that Monaco Kingdom was on the borders of France and Italy. So now, the ministers of Monaco decided to send a note of inquiry to the French government of France to send a guillotine and an executioner. And if they send, they also must inform them what cost they would take for sending them. So now let us see next lines. What happens? The letter was sent. The inquiry letter was being sent to the French government. A week later, the reply came. After 1 week, the ministers of Monaco got reply from French government of France. A machine and an expert could be supplied, and the cost would be 16,000 francs. In reply, they got that the machine and an executioner would be sent, but the cost to send them was how much it was written? 16,000 francs. Be very careful with the spelling of francs. F-R-A-N-C-S. Francs means it is a unit of currency of which country? France. So now the French government sent the reply to the ministers of Monaco saying the cost to supply an executioner and a guillotine would be 16,000 francs, which is very, 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 very important to get how many marks? 1 mark. How much cost it was set by the French government to send an executioner and a guillotine? Such kind of question will be asked. For that, what you have to write? 16,000 francs. So, the French government demanded 16,000 francs to supply an executioner and a guillotine. Thereafter, what happens? Let us see. This was laid before the king. Now, that was kept before the kinglet of Monaco. He thought it over. The kinglet of Monaco thought about the reply. 16,000 francs. he exclaimed in anger. ಸಿಟ್ಟು ಬಂದು ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಕಿರಿಚ್ತಾನ ಅವನು. 16,000 francs, he exclaims in anger. 16,000 francs. He exclaimed and continued. The rent is not worth the money, said he. Here, the wretch. The wretch refers to the criminal. The King of Monaco calls the criminal as what? The wretch. The meaning of wretch is bad person. He cries, exclaims when he sees how much? 16,000 francs, and calls the criminal as the wretch and says he is not worth of how much francs? 16,000 francs. He is not worthy of 16,000 francs, he cries. ಚಿಟ್ಟಂಚಿಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನವ, ಅವ ಒಬ್ಬ ಅಪರಾಧಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಅಂತ ಹೋಪ್ಲೆಸ್ ಫೆಲೋಗೆ 16,000 francs ವೆಚ್ಚ ಮಾಡೋದಾ? He exclaims. Can't it be done somehow cheaper? He asked his minister if it couldn't be brought somehow cheaper. Next lines, let us see what it is given. Why 16,000 francs is more than 2 francs a head on the whole population? Because if he had to give 16,000 francs to the French government, he had to lay more than 2 francs per head of his population, because his population was just 7,000. 16,000 francs ಅನ್ನ ಅವನು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ತನ್ನಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ನಾಗರಿಕರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೂ 2 ಫ್ರಾಂಕ್ಸ್ಗಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಸ್ ಅವನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು? ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಸೊ he asks his ministers whether it was not possible for them to bring the thing somehow cheaper. In next lines, let us see what he says. The people won't stand it, and it may cause a riot. If he asks his people to give tax more than 2 francs, they might not stand for it. Stand here refers to agree. They wouldn't agree for that, he knew. And if he asked them to, if he forced them to give, that would cause what? He says that would cause for a riot. The meaning of riot is tumult. The meaning of riot is tumult. The meaning of tumult is disturbance. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ರು 2 ಫ್ರಾಂಕ್ಸ್ಗಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ತೆರಿಗೆ ಕಟ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಅವನ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಒಪ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರು ಒಪ್ಪದಾಗನ ಏನಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು? ಆ ಜನರಲ್ಲಿ ಗದ್ದಲ ಎದ್ದು ಬಿಡ್ತಿತ್ತು. So he suggested and also asked his ministers to bring the thing somehow cheaper than of 16 francs. Than of how much francs? 16,000 francs. 16,000 francs is demanded by which government? French government from France. Now let us see what the ministers they do. In next paragraph, what it is given? Let us see. So a council was called to consider what could be done, and it was decided to send a similar inquiry to the King of Italy. Now again the council was called. The meaning of council? Committee, meeting. For your better understanding, you understand as meeting. Again, the meeting was called to consider the matter of the criminals. ಆ ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲ್ ನ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆಯ ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ಒಂದು ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಕರೆಯಲಾಯಿತು. And it was decided to send a similar inquiry to the king of Italy. Now the ministers decided to send the same inquiry to the king of which kingdom? Italy. First they sent a note to France. France demanded 16,000 francs, which was very costly. 16,000 francs if they have to collect means they have to hike the tax of inhabitants of the kingdoms, which might cause a riot, they thought. So later they decided to send a note to which government? Italy government, or to the king of Italy. Next line what it is given, let us see. The French government is republican and has no proper respect for the king. Here it is given, the French government is republican. See, the government of France, which is French government, is republican. The meaning of republican is democratic, ruled by the people. There in France, the people were the rulers and they had no proper respect for whom? Proper respect for their king. So let us see what they do. But the king of Italy was a brother monarch. But the king of Italy was brother monarch. Means a man of single ruler. ಏಕ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತ್ವವನ್ನ ಹೊಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಯಾವುದಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಇಟಲಿ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. So the ministers thought that anyhow Italy has a king of brother monarch and might be induced to do the thing cheaper. When there will be single ruler, the ruler might make the thing somehow cheaper. They had thought. So the letter was written and a prompt reply was received. So the letter was sent and prompt reply, sincere reply. The ministers of Monaco, they got from which king? Italy king. Let us see thereafter what happens in next paragraph. The Italian government wrote that they would have pleasure in supplying both a machine and an expert, and the whole cost would be, very important, 12,000 francs. Will be again asked for how many marks? 1 marks. Prompt reply, the ministers of Monaco, they got from Italy king, and the reply was they were very pleasure to send an executioner and a machine, but the cost would be how much? 12,000 francs. And that includes traveling expenses. Here they had added a discount. The discount was traveling expenses is free, they had told to the ministers of Monaco through their reply. This was cheaper, but still it seems too much. 12,000 francs comparing to to 16,000 francs is cheaper, but still it is costly for the king of Monaco, the prince of Monaco. The rascal was really not worth the money. Again, the king calls the criminal as the rascal. This line, the rascal, refers to the criminal. The king says, the rascal is not worth of even how much? 12,000 francs. 12,000 francs is also more for him. It was told. It would still mean nearly 2 francs more per head on the taxes. Again, the ministers, they thought that if they have to collect 12,000 francs, again nearly 2 francs, nearly 2 francs they have to collect from their inhabitants in the form of what? In the form of tax. They had thought. Another council was called. So they dropped that idea too. Getting a machine and an executioner from Italy. Idea was also being dropped. Again they called what? One more council. The ministers again called one more meeting. They discussed and considered how it could be done with less expense. All the ministers sit together and discussed and thought how it could be done somehow cheaper. Could not one of the soldiers perhaps be got to do it in a rough and homely fashion? One of the ministers suggested whether any one of the soldiers, we already had seen that Monaco kingdom also had got what? An army of how many men? 60 men. Do you remember? Oh. So now, one of the ministers, he suggested or inquired the other ministers that whether one of the soldiers of 60 soldiers could do it with a rough and homely fashion. ಹಂಗ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಒಳಗೆ ನಡೆದಿತ್ತು. ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮಂತ್ರಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನ, ಹೇಗಿದ್ರು ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಸೈನಿಕರಿದಾರ? 60 ಜನ ಸೈನಿಕರಿದಾರ. ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಒಬ್ಬನ ಕರೆದು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನಾವು? ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಅವರು ಏನು ಸೈನಿಕರ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು? ವೈರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಕೊಲೆ ಮಾಡೋದಿರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಫ್ಯಾಷನ್, ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಸರಳವಾದ ಹೋಮ್ಲಿ ಫ್ಯಾಷನ್ ಇಂದ ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರ? ಅವನ ತಲೆಯನ್ನ ತೆಗೆದು ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. One suggestion it came in the council. Let us see what happens thereafter. The general was called and was asked, "Can't you find us a soldier who could cut the man's head off?" In war, they don't mind killing people. In fact, that is what they are trained for. So the general talked it over with the soldier to see whether one of them would not undertake the job. Now, the general was called. In our previous class, we had seen the meaning of general. General, head. Head, ಮುಖ್ಯಸ್ಥ. ಒಬ್ಬ ಮುಖ್ಯಸ್ಥನನ್ನ ಕರೆಸಿ, he was asked to be found a soldier who could chop off the head of the criminals. And was told that that is what they are trained for. They are trained for killing the people. But in the war, they don't mind. In the war, killing people not be minded. Because ವೈರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಕೊಲೆ ಮಾಡೋದೇ ಸೈನಿಕರ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. But here, the ministers were asking the soldier of Monaco to kill the person of Monaco. Murder is from where? Monaco. Murder ಯಾವ ರಾಜ್ಯದವನಾಗಿದ್ದ? ಮೊನಾಕೋ ರಾಜ್ಯದವನಾಗಿದ್ದ. ಸೋಲ್ಜರ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿಯವ ಇದ್ದ? ಮೊನಾಕೋ ರಾಜ್ಯದವನಾಗಿದ್ದ. ಮೊನಾಕೋದವರನ್ನೇ ಮೊನಾಕೋದವರು ಕೊಲ್ಲೋದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it's ridiculous. The soldiers do not mind killing the people in the war because they are trained for that only. But the general was told to go and talk to the soldiers. ಅಂದ್ರೂ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಆ ಮುಖ್ಯಸ್ಥನನ್ನ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ರು. Let us see there what happens thereafter. But none of the soldiers would do it. No, they said. The same thing had happened there. None of the soldiers in 60 soldiers said yes. They said no. No, they said. Agudilla ant heli all 60 soldiers they said we don't know how to do it. It is not a thing we have been taught. They told the general that they didn't know how to do that. How to chop off the criminal's head. They didn't know, they said to the general. And added, it was not the thing which they had been taught. Namaga idanna namaga training nalli kalsila. Bare ವೈರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಸದೆ ಬಡಿಯೋದು ಯುದ್ಧದಲ್ಲಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಮಗ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ಅಪರಾಧಿಯನ್ನ ಶಿರಚ್ಛೇದ ಮಾಡಬೇಕನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಮಗ ಕಲಿಸಿಲ್ಲ. Said 60 soldiers to the general. The same intimation had been informed to the ministers. Thereafter, what happens in the story in next class, we will see. See you in next class. Thank you.